Gender affirming care. That's the watch cry you're hearing all over the place, from Rachel Levine and Biden's Health and Human Services to various media personalities concerned about laws that are putting the brakes on some of this gender affirming care, especially when it comes to children. Let's just be clear. Gender affirming care actually does the exact opposite of affirm somebody's gender. It actually physically, medically changes a person's gender, the way they were born. But I can't get this out of my head. What Joe Biden said on Comedy Central last week about measures in Florida that would actually get in the way of doctors going behind parents' back in some cases to implement these gender affirming procedures on children, on minors. Let's remind you what he said. Watch.
Transgender kids is a really harder thing. What's going on in Florida is, as my mother would say, close to sinful. I mean, it's just terrible what they're doing. It's not like, a kid wakes up one morning and says, I decided I want to become a man, or I want to become a woman, or I want to change. I mean, what are they thinking about here?
Okay, let's just take it from there. Joining us right now is Prisha Mosley. She is commonly referred to now as a detransitioner. She's one of God's children. She went through these procedures and regrets it, and is now going through the slow process of going back to the sex in which she was born. Prisha, thank you for joining me, and I hope I elegantly described, because I hate people just saying, well, detransitioner. Well, you're more than that. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
First, I'd love for you to respond to that. Joe Biden thinks that people trying to sort of put some precautionary measures in place so children like you don't go through this process without really thinking it through and having an adult brain to process this, that's sinful. I wonder if you could respond to that idea of it being sinful to want to re-examine this transition process.
I mean, I think that's virtue signaling language, but if you really want to talk about sin, I think it's sinful to not protect children. I think it's sinful to sterilize and mutilate them, but I think he's just trying to virtue signal and show that he has empathy or love, but it's not love to mutilate someone.
Yeah. And that part where he said, it's not like children just wake up one day and say, I think I'm going to be a man, or I'm going to be a woman, or anything. First of all, I don't know if there are a lot of studies that have really examined the social aspect of this. And I remember in our last conversation, there was a big part of sort of social media and social pressures with regard to this. But could you respond to that, this idea that's, no one just wakes up and thinks this?
I can sort of agree with that, because other people are putting that idea into the minds of children. Children are going online or to their teachers or doctors and saying that they're suffering. And then those same people are convincing children that they've been born in the wrong body and need treatment for it.
And let's remind everybody, how old were you when you began the process of maybe changing your name, changing your pronouns?
I was only 15.
And then, if I remember right, you actually did have top surgery, correct?
Yes, I did. Radical double mastectomy.
And that was at what age?
18.
Just when you became an adult. So the wheels were already in motion then when you were a minor.
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm guessing, given where you are now and the process that you're trying to go through, you wish some of these laws were in place at the time to sort of slow things down a bit.
Absolutely. I mean, my parents were manipulated and unable to protect me that way. And honestly, they needed protection too because of the blackmail. And there were just no safeguards in place.
Do you notice, now I watch you on social media, I think that you are a heroine. I think that you are amazingly courageous to engage with people who say such mean and horrific things to you, because listen, you're living your life the way your journey sent you, and somehow they're blaming you for this, that in some way you're at fault for what has happened to you.
Yeah, I mean, when you break it down, my sin was trusting doctors, especially with the black and white thinking from the borderline. I thought that all doctors were all good, loving people, and your doctors just don't love you, even if they're carrying good ones. That's not the situation.
And there's big money in this process, isn't there? Do you have any idea, was your coverage paid for by insurance or by state health funds? Because doctors are making bucks on this thing.
So, everything was covered by insurance except for my top surgery, which I lost when I turned 18. But I paid for that myself, well, half of it before it got taken by a debt collector. But insurance paid for the testosterone, the appointments, the blood work, everything.
So, and I'm sorry, you ended up going into debt because of all of this, it sounds like, based on what you just said.
Yes. I
I'm,
started my life immediately at 18 with over $7,000 of debt.
I'm so sorry. And I saw you shared this on social media. You're now exploring having breast reconstructive surgery to go through the process of detransitioning or restoring yourself. And that's another $12,000 you're going to have to pay for.
That's just for the first surgery. The second surgery is going to be at least 14,000, and then there will have to be a third surgery for my nipples, which might not be successful, and they haven't even given me a price for that yet.
Oh my gosh. And it's such a tragedy to think. I mean, again, this is a double mastectomy for perfectly healthy, normal breasts. But you were convinced, you were told. Was there any medical professional along the way who said, I'd like to present you with an alternate opinion, Prisha. I'd like to present you with some other path of treatment?
I wish, but I was literally given no other option. As soon as I said the word gender, even the therapist I had been seeing for years concluded that all of my problems were because I was born in the wrong body.
So when you see the President of the United States, sort of, I mean, I think, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you were my daughter, I would be personally offended and insulted by the way he is treating this issue for his own political purposes.
Yeah, I do think he's doing it for political purposes, and I go back to virtue signaling. He's just trying to sound like people who don't support this are hurting children, but really supporting surgery and hormones for minors is supporting mutilating and sterilizing and desexing them.
You know, there are a lot of journalists and activists out there. I know Jon Stewart has made this one of his signature issues. He likes to go out there and challenge politicians who are probably not the best advocates or spokespeople for the nuances of this problem and the nuances for what policies should be. But I am curious, have there been any mainstream journalists, not, you know, I'm a right of center commentator, and this program is a right of center political analysis show. Has anyone from the networks, anyone from cable, anyone who's maybe not conservative, have they wanted to talk to you and hear your story?
Absolutely not. Well, I mean, I was interviewed or sort of like approached when I was testifying one time for like a hit piece about how like I hate children or something. So that happened. But as far as anything respectful and interested in the story, no.
I love the fact that you're literally trying to protect children because you were that child, and suddenly you want to hurt children. A lot of people will say that the prescriptions and the puberty blockers and the hormones, that those are reversible. That's easy. If you start going on that, at least you can test drive it and you can sort of get the feel for that. Remind everybody how old you were when you started on that and whether it was in fact reversible.
I started the medical aspect at 17, and some of the changes began in days, including changes to the genitals. That it literally takes days for that to begin, and it's irreversible. It will never go away.
So they're just lying.
Mhm.
Well, Prisha, it's always enlightening to talk to you. And again, I just want to reiterate how courageous I think you are. I know that it's difficult to talk about these things, but I truly believe in your heart you're doing this because you want to be the last person who's had to go through this trauma. So I really appreciate it on behalf of all the children that I think that you're saving.
Oh, thank you. That touches my heart.
Good. And Jon Stewart should give you a call. I think that would be a great interview. I'd love to see him learn something from you.
Thank you.
We'll send this his way. And President Biden, before you start throwing the word sinful around, Prisha Mosley is far from a sinner. She's a saint on this issue. There's more to come on O'Connor tonight. Keep it here.